Okay, so I want to get down some of my ideas about the education business. Okay, and I've been a part of this for a little bit now, and I think there are some very interesting aspects of business when applied to education. Okay, so when people normally think about business, they think about making money. Maybe it's a little bit too short term. That's another problem with business, but a good thing maybe is it's very practical. Okay. And when it comes to education, I think maybe hopefully more long term. And I think people are just very confused how money is related to education. Um, but maybe I'll write down here, maybe it's about understanding or giving people the ability to understand and discern the truth. Okay. And I think traditionally, maybe it's not very practical. Um, Maybe it's more idealistic. So, and we're usually dealing with students, and here we're usually dealing with parents, okay? And sort of how these things connect to each other, I think is an interesting problem. And I think most people have just kind of taken the easy way out, okay? So I think it's definitely possible to mix education with business. And if you think about it, at the end of the day, um, I'm really the same educator, no matter what framework I've decided to carry this out. But I think the framework can confuse a lot of people. Okay, so a part of this, I guess I wanted to talk about the relationship. Should education be free? And I also want to talk about education versus entertainment. Okay. All right. So, what is the first interesting issue? Let's just pretend we're teaching high school students and we want to make a business out of it. Sort of what do people actually do and why is it wrong? Um, so you have this interesting relationship between parents and students, and maybe I'll make a little triangle here. So you have parents, students, and then you have like me or like the educator. This is like Dr. Sun School of Maths. So the students want to learn, okay? So I teach them stuff and how to learn. And but it's not the students who owe me anything in return. So this is um where should education be free can maybe be a bit related. It's the parents that need to pay me. Okay. So the parents need to pay me, and maybe in some sense, maybe it's like a triangle in the sense that the students don't pay me back, um, so much as um, so I guess their gratitude is directed towards their parents when it comes just to the money. Um, so the opportunity and the resources given by the parents, um, students receive education, and yeah, so and the students, I guess, give the goodwill to the parents. The parents feel like they've done their duty, and maybe in some sense they've repaid their parents. Um, so that's roughly how this business model works. Um, so the problem here is most people. So this is where like you have maybe tutoring centers or schools. is they only focus on this because this is where the money comes, right? If they only focus on this, they end up giving sort of superficial education. Maybe try to please to make parents happy. I'm not saying all parents being happy are not a good thing, but certainly a lot of parents have a very fixed mindset when it comes to education, and what makes them happy ultimately is not great for the student. And actually, there's a very generic thing that makes a lot of parents happy, but the same generic approach is not how one should educate students. Okay, so actually, if the parents all wanted the right things for their students, so a lot of the time, so parents have a very fixed mindset. So what they consider is good for them, and they would have loved to have, um, they want their kids to have, which is nice. But if their kids are nothing like them, then it becomes a problem. So in general, what you want is you want to educate a student according to their potential, okay? And if the parents, so the more the parents understand the student and their potential, okay, and what's available, the better this becomes to sort of try to make parents happy. But at the moment, we're far from that. So you get all these tutoring centers, and all they're focused on is the HSC and all this stuff, just because they don't know really what's out there, and they just want to make the checklist of achievements that they understand. If they thought it was cool to have their kid as a doctor, even though it has nothing to do with their future. Um, all these things come from the parents, which are not good, and a lot of people try to satisfy them to get the money. Okay. Um, on the other end, so this whole thing is related to whether education is free. We'll talk about that later. But on the other end, this is some people actually focus in a slightly different. They're not focusing on educating the students, but they're kind of focusing on the students in the sense that they think it's the students who are giving them the money. Okay, so this is like where YouTube maybe come in. So it's a miss. It's not. It's the arrow's even going the wrong way, right? So the trouble with so if you can't get money from the parents, you try to get money from the students. And the reason that is so wrong is because you're basically taking advantage of the most vulnerable people in our society, right? So the students haven't got a um, fully developed mind. They haven't got a fully developed body, and you're basically um, trying to. So this is where, look, a lot of the time. So this is what happens on YouTube. Um, you're passing, you're pretending entertainment. Oops, that's it. You're pretending entertainment is education. Okay. Um, because a lot of the time, a lot of the serious education, especially in maths, a lot of it is really about honing your instincts to believe whether things are true or not. Whereas entertainment kind of um sort of subverts all that. It kind of gives you a lot of sort of um things, and they don't really make you work it hard enough for it to really to reach your potential. So I mean, sometimes entertainment is helpful in education. Um, so this is maybe related to the notion of fun. Okay, what is even fun and entertainment? I mean, and some of this depends on your mindset. So I think uh, it, if you have a good mindset, like a growth mindset, um, you'll kind of realize what's fun. So when you see a game or something new, like that's genuinely fun, you'll interpret it as fun because it's new and you're learning something new, and you're kind of getting to understand the rules and things And then and it's really that learning, the new experience, and the kind of um sort of almost educational part of it that's actually fun. But whereas if you have like a fixed mindset, or if you don't really understand, um, you just think as the thing itself as the fun. You don't realize it's the novelty that makes it fun, and you kind of get trapped in this cycle where you just continuously do the same repetitive um educationalist thing, um, thinking that's the source of your fun. Okay, and that's the problem with the YouTube entertainment education. People have no problem with hooking people in these sort of degenerate cycles of just kind of mindless entertainment and passing it off as education. So people will be like, "Oh, I'm learning something, so I'm going to keep doing it," as opposed to realizing, "Oh, I'm not actually learning anything. This is as dangerous for me as a drug addiction." Okay. So in my YouTube channel, I never really go for views because I actually know at the current state of time, I don't have the resources to do proper education and to have mass appeal entertainment. And I know that if some of my videos had a lot of views for educational purposes, I would be a little bit skeptical as to whether these people were really able to learn anything, or they were just kind of hooked by some sort of superficial thing. Because there's a lot of things that really need to be checked to be part of learning. So you can't just sit there and sort of just learn automatically, okay? Because first of all, the things that's being presented to you might not even be right. You have to have the sense to figure out what's right and what's wrong, or whether the source is even trustworthy, okay? And so I mean, some people understand that and kind of then they're watching and they know it's really entertainment, and it is entertaining, and they're learning new things, but they're happy with not learning that much. That's fine. But it's the really dangerous thing is when people they think they're learning they think they're learning a lot, or they think they're learning something or doing something. So this is the problem with schools. They think that when they trust it and do it, they'll end up educated, and that's just not the case. Okay. Um, yeah. Yeah, and then sort of yeah, maybe this arrow is the strangest one. This is sort of maybe not even um easily described, but it's a very long-term thing, okay? Because you won't really see the real benefits. Like, I'm not talking about like scores in a test which you use to enter other things. I'm talking about like the final person this student becomes, the final adult. And I think when you have a really good person on your hands who's able to do a lot, um, the parents should be happy, and the students should be happy. They shouldn't even need to put an arrow to parents. Maybe the arrow is maybe they'll become parents. Maybe that's like the arrow, you know, they'll become parents and they'll give it back to the next generation. So this is kind of a mysterious, complicated arrow, but and at the moment, so if we look at my journey, I don't even like, this arrow is like is like I'm a one person operation, or I was, and you know this arrow didn't mean very much to me. Okay, so I focused entirely on this arrow I can give to the students, and somewhere here is maths. Okay, so I'm really about staying true to maths and giving students an opportunity to understand maths in a way that really educates them. Okay, so it's not just sort of you're learning things to pass an exam, or just to check off a checklist. I mean, a lot of the things you do, you don't necessarily directly use them, but the sort of the powers that you get from having mastered them um will be with you and be very useful to you for forever. Okay. All right. So I'd say something about whether education should be free. Okay. So this is a very delicate topic, even though I don't really care too much for the delicacy of it. Education should not be free. Okay. Um, so if you think education should be free just in an absolute sense, I think you're deluded. Okay, it's a very ignorant notion to have. Um, I mean, and you might think it's an ideal notion that has nothing to do with practicality. And obviously, the main thing is it's very impractical. But a lot of the reason you would think that is for practical reasons, okay? Because if there was unlimited resources, there wouldn't be a question of whether education should be free. Everyone will just get educated with their unlimited resources. Um, but the problem is there's limited resources, okay? And while you want to give everyone an education, it's not necessarily even possible, okay? Um, so and then another thing is, so you might say, okay, the students have no way to pay, so it's so maybe they don't know they shouldn't be punished for being born into a world where they have no opportunities, and that's to some extent true. And lots of people give students scholarships and stuff, but I mean, according to this triangle as well, it's the parents who owe the students this free education in some sense, right? It's not the school, it's certainly, and it's not the student, I guess. So it's really the parents who need to pay for the students. Okay. So and certainly and being poor, okay, certainly doesn't entitle you to have more. Okay, that's the most ridiculous notion. So the thing that annoys me the most is when not only do people want it for free, is they expect it like like it's like they expect it to be for free. Somehow like it's like they complain if it's not for free, you know? But that's just so ridiculous. I mean, being poor, if anything, limits your opportunities because you have limited resources to realize them. Okay, so certain like it's certainly wrong to think education is free, and it's even more wrong to be entitled to think you're entitled to free education. That's just ridiculous. Okay, so if you look at like government schools or something, so you might consider maybe a basic level of education should be free. You can look at government schools and stuff like this. Um, well, the thing is, they're receiving money from the government, right? So they're getting like $20,000 a student, to offer this sort of free service, okay? Um, and they kind of teach you the bare minimum, okay? So you get much less than what you pay for. That amount is it's of the order of magnitude of a private school, but the teachers is just so much less qualified these days. I mean, even the good ones that were at my school are now gone almost. It's just getting worse and worse, okay? And yeah, so it's getting worse and worse. And and if you just take away the focus from money for a moment, okay? So in the most purest sense, okay, even in the purest sense where there was no such thing as money, okay, the education is never free for a student, even for a student, even if we have the parents pay, the students never actually receive free education because the costs don't exist just in terms of money. Like if I work for time, right? And I get money, like my profit isn't just the money you gave me. My profit is the money you gave me minus the time that I used, right? Like I have a limited amount of time that I will live. Okay, so I'm really trading my life for that money and maybe some goodwill and some satisfaction, right? So and for students it's the same, right? Like there's a huge opportunity cost that people don't understand, especially for talented students with high potential, that you can't listen to two people at once. You can only listen to one person and have the other person wait or take turns. Like it's impossible for someone to listen to two people speaking at once. So there's an opportunity cost for the student to receive any form of education. Okay, so if a student gets educated badly, as is the case with like most schools and especially government schools, that's a huge cost, even if they don't pay any money, even if the parents didn't pay any money, even though like the parents probably do pay some through taxes, even though I mean even though they should just be paying directly, but whatever. Like the student also is sacrificing their time. Okay. So if they go through that whole time, you don't rewind the clock. Okay. And if the education hasn't been fulfilled, okay, that cost is far greater than any kind of amount of money that you can be concerned about. I'll talk more about money maybe in some other time, but I think people really like overemphasize the role of money, and a lot of the time it's because they don't have any. Okay. And a lot of the time people don't have any money because they think and they don't have any, and thinking that it's not their fault, or like they're a victim of something. Okay. When the reality is a lot of people don't have any money. I mean, okay, there's systems in place that really prevent you from getting wealthy in Australia. That is definitely true. But having like no money whatsoever, okay, um, is has a lot to do with your own management of your money and your own contributions. Okay, it's not just a pure like victimhood thing. All right. Okay, so hopefully, um, I'm trying to clear up some of these ideas, and yeah, I mean these ideas are always constantly evolving, but um, yeah, so you got to really try to understand some things. Um, if you really ultimately want what's best for the students, and for this kind of thing to work. Okay, so I guess also bottom line is this, we have to really rethink how education works. Okay, and so the difference I'm trying to make here is I'm actually doing that. I'm not just telling you and then sort of making new complaints after this one. I'm actually acting on this problem, and I'm gonna solve it hopefully before I die.